Didn't have the answers.
I'm going to call Dennis O'Rourke.
The National Party, Mr Chairman, hates local government. It always has and it always will. And the reason for that is that local government represents ordinary people and their needs. The National Party sees local government as a poor relation and that it should do what it's told. It says to hell with what local people want. And true to form, this bill overrides core democratic principles established over a long period of time and again undermines local government in New Zealand. And in doing so, it undermines the viability of the governance of local communities. And this results in a loss of confidence by local communities in their local government. Mr Chairman, an overwhelming majority of the 775 written submissions and 186 oral submissions on the bill oppose it. It is not what the people want. It's really all about half-witted National Party ideology, nothing more. I was a member of the Christchurch City Council in 2002 when the current Act was passed after very comprehensive public consultation. That Act clarified what local government was about, and it had the widespread support of communities throughout New Zealand. People then and now see local government as requiring to take a much more holistic approach rather than the traditional roads, rubbish, regulation and rates. They don't want a narrow basic services approach. They want much more than that. The principle of subsidiarity was adopted in 2002 and decision-making was devolved to appropriate levels, with community boards having a much more important role to play for the well-being of their communities. This amendment makes the bill a much narrower bill in terms of the purposes of local government. It says, and I quote, "To meet the current and future needs of communities for good quality local infrastructure, local public services and performance of regulatory functions in a way that is most cost effective for households and businesses." So what it's really about is money. What it's really about is just basic services. What it is not about is the welfare of local communities. It replaces those four well-beings: economic, environment, social and cultural, with something much more narrow and not what the people of New Zealand want. It returns local government to the bad old days where its scope of operations is far too narrow to meet the needs of today's communities. And nowhere is that better shown today than in Christchurch, where I live and was a city councillor for 15 years. And yes, there is a huge need for the repair and reconstruction of basic services in that city, and Skirt and the city council are doing just that. And yes, there is a need for the prudent direction of government money in the rebuild process, and Sarah and again the City Council are doing just that. But few would argue that that is nearly enough. There is a need for, as I've said, a much more holistic approach to the re-establishment of communities in the most affected areas of Christchurch. The welfare of communities and of people is every bit as more important as the traditional roads, rubbish, regulation and rates. Councils must also be interested in housing, and not just housing for the elderly. They should be interested in rental rates, because rent gouging is commonplace in Christchurch today. I was contacted by somebody last week concerning a family of 9 children whose rent went up by $100 a week from $460 to $560. And that is unconscionable. Councils need to play a role in those issues too, as they do in health services, especially in what district health boards do not provide. Also in recreation and opportunities for healthy living, in economic development and job creation, in emergency preparedness and the organisation of community responses to adverse events. and also to the provision of public events which are supported, Mr Chairman. Mr Chairman.
Paul Goldsmith.
Mr Chairman. Mr Chairman.
I'm going to call the Honourable Enid King.
Well, thank you very much, Mr Chairman. The guts of this